Hello. So, this is part two of the birthday transmission. This is the 35th year, and for anyone who saw part one, clearly there was a lot of sadness in that transmission. I was really feeling this very deep. It was bittersweet, but at the same time, like there was a lot of sadness from everything that I shared, and at the same time, there was joy, there was happiness about having found my way through and having a passage for other people to be able to find their way through. And as pretty much as soon as that transmission completed, right, like I started transitioning into feeling a lot better because I felt like I had come out of that. I had felt everything that I needed to feel. I had got what I needed from that experience, made a beautiful message out of it that I shared with the world, and now I felt like it was time to actually do the thing that I was saying, which was to connect with myself first, connect with life, connect with my dogs, connect with the people that I love. And that's exactly what I ended up doing after that is I had some beautiful alone time, after which I connected with my family. I connected with my birth family and my soul family. And a decade back, I did not have that. I did not have that connection with my birth family, and I did not have a soul family that I'm so close to that I can share anything and everything with. This super deep, supportive connection that I have with these two women who are always there for me, who love and support, and we support each other, love and support each other in whatever we are going through. So, like, when everything is going great, we celebrate each other and we push further and further and further. And when something difficult, something challenging is going on, obviously we're there for each other. So, and in many ways, we challenge each other. We also hold each other up to a high standard, which is really what has helped me to come to this place. Is people in my life who see my full potential, who see my beauty, who see my power, and expect me to show up at that with compassion, knowing that it's not about perfection, knowing that there are times, there are dips, there are waves in life, but always speaking to me from who I am at my highest potential. And this is something which truly I've found life changing. Is not someone who sees you in your lowest or even in your current, but always sees you in your highest. This truly has been a game changer, not only in receiving that, but also giving that. This is something I have been doing for a long time, but for the longest time, I had not received it for myself. I always saw the potential in people and always held that as the standard of, like, I know you can do this. I know that this is where you're meant to live at, but it was not until I received it that I started, unlocking deeper and deeper and higher layers of that. And just being in that space with myself, where, I once again I was connected to my highest potential. So while I was expressing all of that in part one, I was also in this duality. It wasn't like I was just sad. I had these two parts within myself. There was one part who had been that, let's say, lost soul, who was in the disconnection, who was in the anxiety, who was in the pain, who was hopeless about life. And on the other hand, I had the part I had developed and cultivated over the past decade, which had absolute faith, absolute trust, absolute love, and was deeply connected to myself, was deeply connected to life, was deeply connected to the people I love and the animals that I love. And what was very interesting about this experience over the last few days, and which crescendos today morning, was being able to hold the duality. I did not really get sucked completely into that. I could really hold this other part of me that was feeling not just me and my past, but was feeling the collective pain of humanity, the collective disconnection and sadness of humanity. And at the same time, I was this other me who, in other moments of life, is the power, the love, the trust, the magic, the beauty. And over the past week, I've had some of my most deep and beautiful experiences. Like I had one experience where I had gone out for a long walk and I was in nature, and I, all I was seeing everywhere was beauty. I was seeing reality and life and the world from the lens of beauty. I was just seeing what a beautiful planet, home planet that we have, what beautiful people there are. Like even in their imperfections, people are so beautiful. And I was just in this deep experience of beauty, and all of a sudden I could see the mirror of, it's because I am beautiful. It's because I can see the beauty in others because that's who I am. And all of a sudden I could truly see my own beauty being reflected in the world, and I could then see it directly. And I had that experience, and it was so powerful, and it was so profound and so life changing. And then I had another experience related to trust, and it was happening in the pool while I was floating. And it was, I was just receiving this deep intuition, which was, so it was actually, it was right after that experience of beauty. So I came back home, and I decided that, okay, I'm in such a beautiful state, so let me just be in the pool. And it was pretty late, so like it had already become dark, and the stars were out, and it was super beautiful. And I was in the pool. I had put beautiful lights everywhere. So I have these colorful lights. I put the beautiful lights. I had put some amazing music to go with the whole ambience. And then I entered the pool, and I was just floating there, and I was just chilling in the pool. And after some time, after about 20 minutes, I got out of the pool and I went for a shower. And a minute into the shower, I'm like, what am I doing? The whole point was to truly be in this beauty. And I realized that in those 20 minutes, I had just become very mental, and I was again in this kind of anxiety. And the track that I was playing, or the music that I was playing, it was called Witnessing Infinity. And I was like, have I actually witnessed infinity? Have I truly been in this calm, relaxed state, just being with the stars through infinity? Like, just being present with the moment, this eternity of time, where time disappears. Like, I've definitely not been in that. So, like, a minute into my shower, I just turned it off and I entered back into the pool, and I started feeling this deep discomfort, this deep anxiety that I just couldn't be still. And so after some time, I was just like, okay, what is going on? And I had entered into the floating state. And as I was floating and I was looking at the stars above me, I was just seeing, like, there are these patterns. There's something that the universe is trying to communicate to me in this moment. And I'm just not being able to grasp it. I'm just not being able to take it. And my mind is wanting to get out, is wanting to escape. There's this deep anxiety. And I just, in one moment, I just decided, okay, I need to get this message. I need to understand what is happening. Why am I being so anxious? And as I closed my eyes in that moment, the immediate realization was, I am not being able to hold infinity. And I'm not trusting myself to hold infinity. That's what's going on. And the moment that thought crossed my head, I just started changing my narrative to, I can hold infinity. And that's when the code truly unlocked. I started witnessing this split between, we can call it the masculine and feminine within me. And for a long part of my life, I was in the feminine. I was in this deep surrender and trust, and, like, disidentified from myself. So no structures, no boundaries, and everything is love and light and just melting into one with nature and all of this spiritual stuff. And I used to experience it, but at the same time, I would also experience the contrasting duality of it, is that when you have no boundaries and when you are just in love, you don't have structure in your life, people walk all over you and you do not have the power to act on yourself. So, like, all basically the downsides of being disconnected from the healthy, sacred masculine. And then the reason I had gone into this feminine is that for a long time I was in the masculine. I was in the one who was the doer, the control, the one who was in control, and everything is structured and linear and logical and super skeptical and an atheist. And in many ways, even today, I have these two sides. That what was happening in that experience that unfolded last week, during this last week, is that I could feel that I'm truly in the duality right now. I am seeing the masculine that doesn't trust the feminine. I'm seeing the order that doesn't trust the chaos. And I'm seeing the feminine that doesn't trust the masculine. It's like the two are at odds with each other. If I'm being in the infinite, it's because I do not trust myself to be a healthy, sacred masculine. I think I'm going to become a toxic masculine who's very controlling and dominating and authoritarian, which I had those traits in the past to whatever degree. There are extremes and extremes, but I had them to some degree of being very controlling. And the masculine doesn't trust the feminine because there is no control, because everything is surrender, everything is trust, everything is blah blah blah, love and light. And then shit happens. And basically, I would, when shit would happen in the feminine, I would go into the masculine trying to control everything. When it would become too controlling, I would go back into the extreme feminine. I was constantly in these two polarities. And over the past year or two, I would say especially, like this polarity kept getting closer and closer and closer and closer. And I could feel that there is more of a balance between the masculine and the feminine, between the control and the surrender and the trust. But at the same time, they had not fully entered into a union. They were balancing each other, but they were not one. They were not together. The masculine and the feminine were not working together. They're working to balance each other out, and there's a world of difference in these two things. We talk about so many things which we are trying to balance, like work and life balance, relationship balance, this and that balance. But there's one thing about trying to balance everything, which is what we do with our minds. But there's a whole other level that unlocks when we are bringing everything into union, when everything comes together and it's actually working as a harmonious whole instead of two parts trying to balance out each other. And that's what I was seeing, is that for a long time, when I was in my masculine, for the early part of my life, I was in the control, in the limits, and I was also very limited and constrained. And to break out of that, I would be in the rebellion. I have to break all the limits and I have to be in the complete chaos. And because there were these two extremes happening, had kind of destroyed my limits and gone completely into the feminine. And then over the past 2 years, I had been developing my limits, but I could still only do it as a way of balancing each other out. And what happened in that experience, as I realized that I can hold infinity, the code that unlocked for me very clearly was that I trust my limits to hold the infinite within me, and I I trust my limits to hold the infinite within me, and I trust the infinite to constantly expand my limits. This completely changed everything for me. I trust my limits to hold the infinite in me, and I trust the infinite to expand my limits constantly. The moment this passed through my mind, I just felt it digesting, and I just felt this anxiety dissolving and the two parts coming together, and I could feel both the parts being anxious, both the parts being at these odds with each other, creating this anxiety in between. And all of a sudden, I could feel this anxiety being transmuted, being harmonized, and becoming one whole. And again, like this was such a beautiful experience, and I could truly understand what it means to be both in trust and in power simultaneously. I don't just trust in God and have faith in the universe and just let go the reins completely, nor am I just holding on to the reins, trying to control everything, trying to keep everything perfect so that nothing unexpected happens. It's like I can truly trust and be in my power at the same time. And this was, in a way, it was mind blowing, mind melting, and my mind it did not completely disappear, but what disappeared was this anxious mind. Let's put it this way. My mind did disappear, but it was this anxious mind that constantly has to be in control, and that is also constantly in the doomsday machine. It's constantly predicting what's going to go wrong, so I have to control everything and keep it in check. Or I have to just completely let go of my mind and let the universe take over. It's like, no, I can actually have this beautiful, I can have them both working together. That I control, basically what is in my control is my intention. So if the universe is infinity, is infinite potential, which is kind of chaotic, it's like all the infinite possible timelines mixing with each other, and anything is possible in any given moment, then my masculine is the power to hold intentionality of which of these timelines am I choosing right now? Who do I want to be right now? And that is where this deep trust started coming. It's like I have the power to choose my timeline. I have the power to influence. I have agency over what I experience, how I experience it, from where I experience it, who I experience it as. I can experience it as the controller, I can experience it as the complete surrender, I can experience it as the masculine, I can experience it as a feminine, or I can experience it as a whole. And that is a completely different game. So I had that beautiful unlock happen. I had several other experiences in this week, and I was in this super elated place. I had joined the gym. So up until a month back, I was completely against going to the gym. I had gone to the gym when I was 16, and it was a terrible experience, and had quit. And I was someone who used to be, on the chair working on my computer or watching TV or doing something which was always seated pretty much for on average 16 hours a day, because some days it would actually go up to 20 or even 30 hours. I would just be on the computer. And I went from there to start doing yoga 3 times a month. And that helped my body change a lot. My body healed a lot because it was in a terrible state. After smoking 30 to 40 cigarettes a day for 9 years, and then along with that, smoking pot for the same amount of time, about 8 to 10 joints a day, most of the days. And along with that, not exercising at all and just being seated, my body was a wreck. So I went from there to doing yoga 3 times a month, sometimes a bit more. Then I joined capoeira for 1.5 years, and I would be going regularly. And then I kind of regressed for some time, and I went back into doing nothing. Then I would go for walks sometimes, I would run a bit, and then it came the time in the beginning of this year, around February or March, that I was like, okay, it's time to actually go to the gym. I feel inspired to go to the gym. And I did that 4 times in a month, and I was pretty proud of myself, because going from nothing to going to 4 times to the gym in a month, and then doing a few walks and runs in between, I was like, that's pretty good, coming out of a complete slumber of no exercise. That's pretty good. And then I went down for a month again where I did nothing, no exercise. And then I was starting to feel the effects of what happens when I don't exercise, and I was starting to feel terrible. So about 2 weeks back, I joined the gym again, and I went on a 10-day streak. I was I went to the gym for 5 times, and I did some kind of exercise, either yoga or running, for the 5 other times. So for 10 days consistently, went to the gym, and everything was great, and I was feeling great, except for the last 2 days of that streak. And so for the last 4 days, it's like slowly the energy started dipping. Slowly it started feeling like something is off. And that is when the whole experience unfolded that I shared in the morning. It's like slowly and slowly and slowly, I started feeling this heaviness and this sadness. And for the first time, it wasn't feeling like it's personal, that there's something wrong with me. Like I could just, I was in a bit of self-criticism, but I could feel like, there is something much deeper and much deeper. And so yesterday I just allowed myself to go fully into it. And at the same time, I was in this duality of like, I am really not, you know, having a great day. I'm feeling quite terrible. I'm wasting a lot of time. Like I spend the whole day either playing chess or watching TV. And most of the day, let's say most of the day, I was working a bit in the morning, but after it just turned into this binge marathon of chess and TV. And I could see myself getting worse and worse. And I'm telling myself, I'm doing this to myself. I have an option in any moment to change direction. I can, and knowing that I had the option, I was like, okay, I know that I could do something to change the energy right now, but let's see where this goes. And where it went is what led to the transmission that I shared in part one. And it resulted in something so beautiful, because coming out of it, I could feel like, to some extent, that part of me was still there in me up until today morning. That part of me that felt disconnected, that part of me that felt that it was just waiting for the doom machine to tick and go off so that the misery ends. It's like the one that doesn't feel that it has any power, that feels completely helpless to do anything, to change the story. It's like that part of me, in, to some extent, still existed today morning. And I'm very grateful for it, because going through that experience and being able to feel all of that at that level, while still being this other me who is in this duality, who could hold the duality, who could be the powerful one, who has trust, who has beauty. And I was like, okay, I can see what is going on. And what it really gave me was the opportunity to connect with this at a transpersonal level. So while I could see myself going through this, I realized that what I'm experiencing is the collective pain of humanity, where so many humans are living in this disconnection, in this pain, in this distrust, in this loneliness, in this feeling of doom, and just waiting for the misery to end, like almost wishing that it would just happen already. And going through that experience, obviously, like I had already started realizing over the past weeks that the next season of my work is to work with people at all levels of this. Because as I shared, like even up until today morning, to some degree I had that. So no matter how far we have gone in our lives, it could still be like you could have all the success, all the great things happening, and you could be experiencing happiness and joy all the time. But if the doom machine to some level still exists in you, like this is exactly what the next season of my work is focused on, is whatever degree you are in that feeling of helplessness, powerlessness, waiting for the doom machine to go off. Like, I want to help you to transition to the other side, to alchemize that more and more and more, to come into this power, to come into this trust, to know that there is a whole other side to life that's available. And if you go into that from time to time, is actually a deep part of the human experience. This is what felt so beautiful for me today, is that I wasn't judging or criticizing that experience at all. It was just realizing that this is what makes us whole. And in one of the conversations I was having with my soul family, like one of my sisters, she, she said something about the whole trust experience that happened in the pool, which was kind of like a baptism experience, because what ended up happening eventually. So, where the whole trust thing was coming up was that I could feel the more I was going into this trust, I was actually physically sinking lower and lower. And at one point, everything was covered except for my nose. And I kind of realized that, okay, maybe I'm going through something like a baptism. And that was the final piece. It was like, okay, I trust myself to let go fully because I am in my power. And likening everything and connecting everything that was happening, she shared something about, or she just said it, and what I realized was this deep feeling of, I know who I am. I am the one who can go as deep into the darkness, into the bottom of the ocean, in a sense. I can be pushed as far down by life as there is, like, to the infinity of depth that exists. But who am I? I am the one who's always going to rise up. I am the one who rises up. I am the phoenix rising, in a sense. I can be killed as many times, but I will rise up every single time. I can fall as many times. I can be, like, life can try and crush me as much as it tries, and I am always going to rise up. And this is what I have trust in. This is what I have faith in. I know myself as that. I am the one who will always rise up. And the power that is in that knowing is truly infinite. When you know that no matter what life gives you, what life sends your way, whatever happens in life, that you are going to get through, that there is really no other possibility, that death is not an escape, that nothing really is an escape, that the only option with life, in a truly infinite life, in an eternal life, the only option is to keep going through. So you get killed, even physically, as a soul, you keep going through, you keep going through, you keep going through. Can't be like, oh, I got killed, I got murdered, I got this, I got that, something bad happened. Earth is so dark, there are so many dark things happening. I was brutally murdered in this terrible way. I was killed in this terrible way. Life is so painful. I'm not going to come back to Earth. I'm not going to incarnate again. This is too bad. No, no. I'm here to incarnate infinitely. I love life. I love life that much, is that whatever happens, I want to live. I want to rise up again every single time. And in that is such a deep joy. It's such a deep love for life. Like, this is what love means for me. Is that this is what makes it absolute. This is what it means. Unconditional, absolute love is that no matter what happens, I choose it. I choose. Now there are many. There's a whole spectrum of, there is such a thing as limits. There is such a thing as boundaries. What I'm talking about is truly the extreme of infinity, where everything dissolves into nothing, in a sense. It's like where the whole paradox resolves. But at this stage, what happens is that the more power you have, in a sense, also the less pain you experience. It's what I experienced, over the last few days, or yesterday, especially when it was at the peak. This dual experience was at the peak. Like, I could see myself crashing hard, in a sense, and at the same time, I felt I am powerful enough to go through this. Whereas in the past, what would happen is that I would be in these hellish experiences and it would only get slightly worse. and it would be like, okay, this is terrible, it's very painful, and I would just be in that. So the contrast wouldn't be very high. I was not in a great place in my life, and it would just be dipping into lower levels of hell and higher levels of hell. And what happened yesterday is like I truly felt like my baseline is completely different. I don't feel like I'm in hell. There was no pain around it. Like there was heaviness, there was sadness, and all of this, but there wasn't this emotional pain that can also become physical at times. And it was just like I'm experiencing something profound. I'm experiencing some deep sadness, and at the same time, I have the power to go through this. And so that's exactly what happens when you enter into this kind of infinite level. Is that the boundary is not set in this masculine way of I reject this and no, these are my limits, these are my boundaries. Your boundary becomes your state of being, your capacity, your energetic capacity of what you can and cannot handle, and that becomes in alignment and in sync with life. Because basically, the contract you have created with life is that whatever comes my way, I can handle it. So the the belief that is there deep down is that whatever is coming my way, I can handle it. Whatever is happening, I can handle it. I'm powerful enough. I'm strong enough to handle it. Which means that I don't need to reject it. I need to use my power to go through it. I don't need to be in denial, trying to numb it, trying to escape it, trying to suppress it and cancel it and say, no, 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 this is too much for me. It's like, what can I do with this and transmute it? And that's exactly what I did with the video this morning is that I took everything that was happening and I used my power to transmute it into this beautiful message that came through today morning. I could allow myself to feel the pain that so many people are going through and actually connect with them and tell them that, look, I know what you're going through and I have a path, I have a channel, I have a way out. I have I have been there and I know, I can tell you from experience that there is another way. There is something beyond this. We don't have to just stay stuck in this powerlessness and this helplessness and wait for the misery to end with some catastrophic event, with our death or something. No, we can actually live a completely different life, whatever is happening in the world. That requires power and that requires trust together. It cannot happen if either of the two is missing. Because if you're only in power, you will use that power to control everything. If you're only in trust, then in a way you are just surrendering to whatever terrible things keep happening and you are just like, okay, I can get through this, I can get through this, but can I actually choose a slightly different path? No. Okay, okay, I will just go through this. No, I can actually choose my path. So this is where for me fate and destiny begin to meet, is that it's not fatalism and it's not predestination. It truly is, I get to create my destiny, I get to choose my destiny that is in alignment with my soul. It's not I create my destiny and do whatever I want. That then ends up being this, for many people, a very empty experience. It's like, yeah, I can do whatever I want, so I will control everything for life to be perfect. I don't actually want a perfect life. I want to be challenged by life. I want mystery. I want the unknown. For me, that is the wholeness of life. A life where you have controlled everything and everything is going perfectly and there's no element of surprise, it's not life anymore for me. It's just become empty. You have actually sucked the life out of life. There is an insect that flew into my hair and is a bit annoying. There it is. Okay. So, yeah, so I for me, this is what I teach people is it's not about perfection. It's not about just everything going great. It's like the true beauty of life, true life is in the duality. It is in the duality. What I experienced over the last week the all these beautiful experiences, including the lows, for me, this was such a beautiful and profound way, and such a beautiful and profound way to enter into year 35 of this body, or 36, whatever. Yeah, like completing 35, entering 36. It was so amazing. Every single thing that happened. Like today is going to be a memorable day. I'm not going to forget this birthday, even though I'm not really doing anything special. I had some awakening. I made a couple of videos. I have some beautiful conversations. I'll go to the jungle after this. I'll go to the beach after this, and I will go and eat something yum. But apart from that, like nothing that special. But I know that this is like one of the ultimate turning points in my life. I'm going to remember this day forever. It is a completely new chapter in my life because it is the culmination of everything that I shared about the past week. Everything coming together. Like, this is the transformation that took place for me over the last, let's say, 8 hours now. And this is what I want to conclude with, is that life is duality. And what I teach people is to master the duality of life. But mastery is not about balance. It's about how do we make duality a whole. And it's not about unity, it's progressing into Trinity. Only in the Trinity can we actually hold duality. Unity consciousness is about transcending duality and going back into the oneness. I'm not talking about going back into anything. The way I see the way life works, in my experience and my opinion, is that, let's say, the unity is the unmanifest, the pure potential where everything comes from. How it comes from, I don't care. How everything was created, I don't care. But let's say unity is where everything comes from, where everything is one. Where it comes into is duality, where everything is polarized. But duality is a transient stage. Duality is like an initiation into the Trinity. We are meant to raise our consciousness into Trinity, into the next dimension where we can hold the duality and choose what to do with it. Where we can use our power and our love together in a fusion, in harmony, where we can use the power of love and lovingly use power to create life in the world as we want it. Because right now, all we do is we keep reacting. We keep reacting and catching up to life. We did something a decade ago and we're just reacting to all the consequences of it. Paying the karma, so to speak, and that whole definition of karma is like constantly catching up with causality. But if you want to become prime cause, the only way is Trinity consciousness. That is what brings potential from the unity into full manifestation. We can see our world is kind of like an in between where there are lots of things that are in the process of manifestation. They are in the transition of becoming whole. We are in the messy process, but there is no ultimate destination. Also, Trinity consciousness is where we are in duality, we are holding duality in an infinite flow, so that we don't go off balance, so to speak, into one end where everything has completed and is pure heaven and everything is manifest and it's the end of life and the limit, end of story, happy ending, and you know, the end. Nor is it ending in this absolute chaos and destruction of hell. We are, like, for me, life truly is perpetual duality, and that is what makes it a trinity. It's where we can hold the duality in harmony constantly. For me, this is like the ultimate understanding of life, the universe. That's what the yin and yang symbol represents. It doesn't represent duality. If we can truly learn to see it, it represents Trinity. It has this middle line also. Like there is the third side, but Trinity is not being the third side. It's not being neutral. It's not about being neutral. That's not Trinity. Neutrality is just one more side. To be in the Trinity is to be all three sides together. And that is what I call Master of Duality. So I've invented this new degree, the Master of Duality. So I am MD, Master of Duality, TOMD from today. TO Rohan MD, Master of Duality. And this is what I teach people. I teach people to master duality, which means, in essence, to master life, to truly be in this infinite flow of life where everything keeps flowing. It's not about reaching an end goal. I have won the game. That winning the game is to keep playing the game. This is what an infinite game means. Is that you keep having goalposts, you keep winning, you keep winning. It's not I have won and it's over. End of story. You keep going forever, forever. You fall, you rise, you play the game again, but that's part of the game too. Falling and rising is the game. It is the game. There is no need for an end when you are in power and in trust. The only reason we want death and we choose death is to end the misery or to pass on to the next one. These are the two choices. Like, I'm done with this. I want to be saved and go to heaven. I want to be, I want it to end and I want to be turned to dust so that there is nothing after this. Like, these are pretty, or like, yeah, of course, I don't want to go to hell, but maybe that's where I'm headed. But at least if I can know for certainty that, okay, I'm in hell, at least I have certainty now. Is the end of the story, end of life, okay. Now is hell for eternity. At least I know there is no surprise remaining. I can just be miserable for the rest of eternity. We have this addiction to certainty. We want to know. We want to know. That's the mind. That's the masculine when it's disconnected from the feminine. When it doesn't trust the feminine. And this is what is one of my core messages. We actually have no idea what happens next. We have all the models of predictability telling us this is what's going to happen to us, this is what's going to happen to the world, and you're building AIs that are meant to, like calculate what happens for each person. Like, there are several dystopian movies and TV shows. Westworld is one of them, where we have created this system that can predict exactly what will happen to every person. And it's nonsense, it's bullshit. There is no definite predictability. There's a lot of predictability, but one thing that predictability cannot account for is the unknown. Cannot account for it. You can account for it as much as you want. You can create all the contingency plans. If this happens, we do this. If this happens, we do this. But all of that is known. The moment you have a contingency plan, it's all in the known. What you can never account for is the unknown. There's only one way to deal with and embrace the unknown of life, the mystical, the chaos, the feminine. It's trust and power. There is only one way. And until we as a species evolve into this, a species that lives from trust and power, which at the root of all of this is love, but I'm not talking a lot about love today. I will talk about it maybe not, maybe in the next transmission even. So this is part two, there may be a part three, I'll see. But this, the trust and power is the only way to navigate the unknown. The only way. And this is what I teach people. And this is what you can start applying in your business too. It's like your business doesn't have to plan for everything to go perfectly. Your business doesn't have to plan for contingency. There was no way businesses could plan for COVID, but it happened. And some collapsed and some were even thriving, and some just sustained their way through and pushed through. A lot of new businesses appeared from the ones that collapsed. A lot of new people got into business because of COVID, but this is the beauty of the unknown. You can make it into an opportunity, or it can become the reason for your despair. When something unknown happens, what are you going to do? You can resign into hopelessness. You can resign into uh, powerlessness, helplessness, and then life does what it does with you. Like, you are in a washing machine on a roller coaster, as I like to call it, and you just keep spinning around, and it's kind of hellish. Or you come into power. and you see what can I do with this, while trusting that somehow or the other I'm going to make my way through. That is power and trust. It's not power, I will do this and I have to make it through. There is trust, I will make it through. There is nothing else. Like, life is life and life will keep going on. Even if I die, I will make it in another life. I will make it again. I will make it again. I will just keep doing it pretty much forever. But resignation into helplessness, powerlessness, hopelessness pretty much has only one end. It's a feeling of despair, and that's it. You can keep watching the ticking clock, waiting to be saved, maybe, and taken to heaven, waiting for someone to do something, or maybe you are trying to take power through meditation and uh, Buddhism and trying to rise to nirvana and escape this cycle of duality and karma. There's a third option. The third option is power and trust to create life and reality in alignment with something out there, which is what you channel through your intuition, which is what you channel through your soul. There is some grand plan which we are part of, not just as actors, we are also creating it at different levels of consciousness. There's really no way to understand this intellectually, but when you start coming into this power and trust, you start seeing the grand plan. This something is there, and the grand plan for me is multiple storylines which interact with each other, which intersect with each other, and again, it's not like the grand plan has a definite ending, but it's like new storylines keep getting created, weaving with each other, going infinitely. And one storyline ends, another one begins. One storyline meets another, it pivots. Like, this is life. It just keeps going. This is what we experience in life. We have a plan. We're going in a certain direction. Other people come and they interact with your story, and that can change the direction, any direction. You are going with one plan, and suddenly, let's say you're a business person, you're an entrepreneur, you have a plan of, okay, I have a 12-month plan of doing this, and this is where my business will go, and I will have these many clients. And in month 3, you meet a client who loves your business so much. They're like, tell me how I can help you and skyrocket this. And what you expected to happen in 12 months happens in a day, and what you expected to happen in 10 years happens in 12 months, and what you could have never imagined happens for the rest of your life. That's possible. The complete opposite is possible. You start a business in January 2020. This is the plan. I'm going to do this. COVID happens. You have your business is, let's say, a physical store. I put all my money into renting a physical store, and COVID happens, and you lose everything, and you just lose everything. What are you going to do then? Are you going to just give up, or are you going to see, what can I do now? What can I do now? Who am I going to be now? These are the only questions. It's not what is the grand plan. You can ask that question of what is the next step for me in the grand plan. I don't even need to know the grand plan. What do I do next? How do I navigate this next? This is power and trust. And this is my message for part 2. Maybe continues in part 3 later today, or this is the end of the transmission for today, and there will be more and more and more infinitely, because that's who I am, the infinite zero, coming from wholeness, the zero, the infinite potential, unity consciousness. That's what I was talking about also in the morning. This is the wholeness, and it's infinitely expanding. So the zero is what I see as my limits. I trust my limits to hold the infinite, and I trust the infinite to expand my limits constantly. And this is the infinite zero experience. And I invite you to it, I welcome you to it, and thank you for joining me. Until the next one.